Hi, DrupalCon. How are you doing? This was a great keynote by LJ, and I'm very much inspired for creating music. Um, my wife is actually a musician, but she's also a math teacher. So now I know where that link actually came from. It's science. Everything is science. What we're going to talk about is today, do you know where your Drupal is at 5 a.m. in the morning? As you can see here also at the slides. And this is a talk about a bit of security, but also trust, end user trust. And it's about risk management in a way. So let's give you some introduction and say hi, I'm Nick. What I do is I'm the chairman of the Belgian Drupal Association. So we are organizing Drupal Camp also this week. We're also organizing Drupal Developer Days next year in April. Next to that, I'm also the CTO at DropSolid. Now, what's my role as a CTO at DropSolid is to make sure that technology and customers and humans are actually aligned and everybody understands where we're going towards. Security is a really big part of that job and expectation management as well. So then the question to you is, and feel free to use the chat here. I have it open on my second screen, so sometimes I'll be looking at the other side. And a question for you is, do you really know what's happening at or for your Drupal server, maybe the Drupal place where you have it at that time in the morning? And maybe it's a weird question, but it's more about understanding, do you understand what the risk is that your website or project is taking because maybe it's not updated to the latest security release of Drupal itself, or maybe other risks that you're taking towards the customer. So for that, I prepared a little song. It's not as good as LJ's live editing and that stuff. I'm a techie, not necessarily a music person yet, but let's hear it. This is a Belgian song.
Drupal is at 5 o'clock in the morning. Young people, things have changed. Today the question for
software developer.
It's 10 a.m. Do you know where
Drupal.
If someone recognizes the song, feel free to leave it in the comments.
Akun.
Some say they come looking for
Crypto. Akun.
All right. If anyone recognized that song, feel free to leave it in the comments. I found it really interesting to do like a small remix of this song because it actually says the same. Do you understand where your teenager is at 5 a.m. in the morning? You're basically also doing risk management in a sense. You leave them out there, but you hope that they follow or act according to the values that you taught them. The same is valid in technology. So then the question is your Drupal project at the latest secure version? And Tim, I'm really happy that you recognize that song. So the question is, so do you understand or do you know if your Drupal project is at the latest secure version? Feel free to leave it in the comments if it is or if it's not. And I know some of the answers already. I looked at the statistics on Drupal.org, but the other question that we have, other than Drupal 8 going to Drupal 9, and then the stress for this month, oh, we need to upgrade all our websites to Drupal 9, is do you still have Drupal 7 sites? And that's also a very good question. And I'll get you into a little secret. Many Drupal sites or Drupal 7 sites still check in on Drupal.org. And let's take a look why that is. I'll expose the numbers on how many Drupal 7 sites we still have out there. And let's see like how that came to be and what are the options to maybe maintain or manage the risks of deprecated software or soon to be deprecated software. So the life cycle of software is a party. And maybe some of you remember this. There were startup times. Drupal 7 was created in 2011. And then in 2014, PHP 5.6 came out. Today, that sounds insane because PHP 5.6 is already deprecated, but Drupal 7 is not. In 2015, Drupal 8 came out. In 2015 as well, PHP 7 came out. The world was like a wonderful place, flowers everywhere, startup time, creating. Also Symfony was becoming really big. at that time. And you can see here in 2016 and 17, PHP 7.1, 7.2 also got to the stage. Then you're seeing the world is seeking stability a bit. There was going to be a bit too many versions of PHP itself. So in 2 years' time, PHP 5.6, 7.0, and 7.1 got deprecated. And if we move forward even further, last year and this year, you can see that the software community or the open source software community tried to reduce the burden of the maintenance by deprecating versions, which is a really good thing, cleaning up the closet. Or there's this Netflix series about if you don't like it, throw it away. Marie Kondo, I believe, according to some people, really interesting to see. But it's very similar in software worlds. If it's no longer useful, or maybe it's too much of a burden for open source maintenance, either option one, pay people for it to do the maintenance for you. But on the other hand, you can also say deprecate. And this is what happens. PHP is getting deprecated. Drupal 8 is going to be deprecated in more or less a month. And it's very tightly linked to Symfony 3. Drupal 7 are going to be next year. And Drupal 9 and Symfony 4 is going to be deprecated in 23. But for those that have Drupal 7 today, there is another option. It's the Drupal Association's program for extended support for Drupal 7, and DropSolid is one of those partners. And we'd like to explain to you a bit why that is and what you can expect from that. Understanding this lifecycle seems very disruptive to many customers. And I don't know about you, but here within DropSolid, with the customers that we cater to, going from Drupal 7 to Drupal 9, or even to Drupal 8 and 9, is a very disruptive change. And sometimes it's not worth the investment or the return on investment for this change. And then the question also comes in, but if I do this investment, will it be as easy to 9 and 10? We all know the answer to that question. It's a lot easier. That doesn't mean that there's customers that somehow needs to get assurance, or are still on Drupal 7. Let's take a look at the numbers. I promised you as well. I have numbers for you, and I looked at Drupal.org, and this is a bit crazy. 574,000 Drupal 7 sites are still checking in on Drupal.org. That's 500,000. That's a lot. And all of those sites, in theory, need to be away from Drupal 7 by the end of next year. So for those, there is a couple options with extended support. Maybe also more important, and this is also scary, 250,000 Drupal 8 sites still check in as this is Drupal 8. They're not on Drupal 9 yet. 80,000 of them are actually on a version lower than Drupal 8.9. So for those customers that recognize themselves and somehow are a bit blocked, please reach out either to DropSolid or to other service vendors or agencies to help you move to Drupal 9, because Drupal 8 will not get an extended support or extended security support program. Now let's take a look at the challenges your customer has, or maybe your agency has. And I'll go pretty quick to then dig into the options that you have, because one of the challenges that maybe you have, or a customer or a brand has, is like, how important is user trust for you? You could say, I'll leave the Drupal 7 site or even the Drupal 8 site as is. I'm not so much concerned about the risk of security. If security is breached, we'll replace it with a backup. But yeah, remember, it's really difficult to build up trust. It's really easy to lose it. Would you rather lose the trust of your users by neglecting the security updates of the software? And this is valid for Drupal 8, 9, and 7 at the same time, but it's risk management. So take that in mind and weigh off the options based on how important is user trust for you. If you have integrations, if there's user data in the website itself, I would really recommend you to look at one of those options to reduce the risk of a data breach. It's only going to be more and more important in today's world with Europe and the GDPR. There's actually legislation. There could be hefty fines as well towards a data breach where it can be proven that you could have avoided it. Now, that's the other question. It could be that you are a software developer or a website developer and an agency, and you're not telling the customer that your website is not up to date. It could be that your website is still Drupal 7 by end of November next year, and you're saying, well, I'll take the risk. I'm not going to tell my customer the website will stay alive. Well, be careful with that. Maybe that's okay of a risk to take, but your customer should be aware and also agree. If your customer agrees to take that risk with you, then at least you have a story to tell together. Now, challenge number 3, and I think you've seen many sessions about that before, upgrading from Drupal 7 to 9 comes at a price. It's not impossible, but it comes at a price your customer might not be willing to pay. This is very similar to a renovation or a house renovation. Feel free to raise your hand in the chat if you've done renovations to your house. But going from Drupal 7 to 9 basically means stripping it all down to the bare minimum of a house and then rebuilding it all up again with new material, with maybe new insights and learnings from the last couple of years. This is a major, major undertaking. It could be that the business case for your customer is no longer as valid as it was when you started the website. So it might be a price your customer is not willing to pay. And then another risk that you're taking, and this is certainly true for agencies or people building websites for customers, the first couple of years, it's similar as a software lifecycle. You build, you build, you build, you build. At a certain moment, you need to start to maintain. And at another point in time, suddenly you're maintaining more, as in the time spent for maintenance is bigger than the time spent on building new projects. This is a risk for you as a company because the competition that is just starting out might have more time to cater to the needs of the customer. So be careful here as well. Either you put the project to a stop or you do maintenance, but make sure that there is a healthy balance. So what are the options? So the high cost options, as we explained, is 1, do nothing. Please don't do this. This is a risk. And the risk is basically user trust. It could be that your brand faces legal lawsuits or other risks that I'm not sure what your use case is about, but please don't do this. But it's an option. It's a high cost if things go wrong. Another option is to migrate to D9 or migrate to another product or solution. I saw it mentioned in the chat. Indeed, migrating or at least go further with Backdrop could be one of them. But it could also be that you're saying, okay, I learned what my business case is now. Today in the market, there is actually a SaaS solution, maybe like Shopify or something else. You could migrate to those solutions if that fits your case. But that's a high cost. A low cost option, and a very simple one, is shut down the project. Just go offline. It's a very low cost option, but obviously it needs to make sense for your business. Another option is to go static, export to HTML files and make sure that the website just lives statically and changes can only happen in the HTML files themselves. For sure, your partner or an agency or most likely almost anyone on a technical level can help you do this. And this is a very low cost option. The third one is to continue to run Drupal 7 for years through the Drupal 7 Extended Support program. And let me explain to you a bit how DropSolid sees this being in or running in action. So if you're not ready yet, we're here for you. It's less stress, and you have time until November 25. That means that you can think about the business case for revamping the brand or revamping the website. And yeah, it gives you a bit more leeway in trying to understand, do I need to migrate to Drupal 9? Do I directly go to Drupal 10 perhaps? Can we also maybe revisit what we wanted to do 5 to 10 years ago and take your time to go into a future-proof story with the DropSolid DXP, which means adding marketing automation capabilities, adding personalization, going in a more competitive way against your competitors on the market. It's also an official contract with the Drupal Association, so that means that there are certain obligations attached to this. It means that all security issues that are actually solved within the security team need to be made open source. So ultimately, they will end up on Drupal.org, and only then they can be distributed to the websites that are partnering with these vendors. You can also look up those patches yourself, but then you're responsible to finding them in the issue queues. So what do we offer is two options. One option is a WhiteBluff service, and we'll connect to your Drupal 7 project and keep it up to date. So that means we'll push out these patches based on the modules where issues have been identified, and you're worry-free. You can reduce your maintenance burden for your company or for your agency, and let us do the hard work. Pricing already starts at $250 a month. There are some little remarks that we have, but if this is an option for you, contact us and we'll see what we can do together. Option 2, you're an agency yourself and you want to apply those patches yourself. You want to be in control of the CI/CD and everything that you've built over the years. Well, we can inform you of those needed patches and we support you with applying those or if we need us. So you keep it up to date, you stay in control, but also here pricing depends on the amount of contract modules that you have. So the conclusion here, it's not an easy conclusion. It probably is different for every use case. Some might say here, okay, I'll export to HTML, or by the end of next year, I'm no longer on Drupal 7. But for sure, that's not the case for 500,000 sites by the end of next year. So think before you act. If you're ready to take the next step, let's start building together to be ready by 22. If you're not ready yet, and it could be as well with Drupal 8, we have your back with Drupal 7 until 25. We also have a big support division to help you with Drupal 8 to 9. So feel free to reach out. Make sure you take the time instead of just upgrading, but to embrace opportunity to improve your digital customer experience. This is a mouthful, which means make sure that if you are today on MailChimp and you send emails just on bulk to make sure it actually gets personalized and more closer to your end user, and then that's really an option to explore, which is called an OpenDXP. And there's plenty of sessions on this DrupalCon about Mautic. Mautic is the marketing automation, but it's those concepts that you need to really dig into if that makes sense for your brand. So we're here for you. Drop by our booth. You can find us at all times in the conference itself. You can reach out through info@dropsolid.com. And what's more, there's so much more that we'd like to share with you. So there is sessions on Monday and Thursday about the user experience, the layout builder, UX testing, and reasons to believe in this OpenDXP, so that we move from a CMS to CMS plus personalization, marketing automation, maybe even integrations with CRMs, et cetera, et cetera. For those that want to add these OpenDXP capabilities to Drupal, there's also sessions from people within DropSolid about extending Drupal with marketing automation, extending Drupal with N8N, which is Zapier-like experience, but then actually the open way, not proprietary. And then also on Tuesday, tomorrow, is the workshop about adding personalization and marketing automation in a simple way to a Drupal website. And then for the next level on a technical pursuit, some people are Drupal architects here. Come to the panel, which is happening in 10 minutes in the Drupal distributions panel for challenges and solutions. There's also a session about better examples for developers and for DevOps people or people of interest as well, Drupal and Ansible, how we manage all these environments, whether if it's on-premise or hybrids or in the cloud. So with that, I'd like to have some open space for questions if there's any questions, and for sure also join us for contribution opportunities. Let me see if there's questions here. There's a question that was posed by Alexi. Would you accept a request to upgrade Drupal.org from 7 to 9? That's going to be a really hard one to estimate, but we'd love to help in terms of then consultancy of professional services. But that's up to the Drupal Association to figure out. We can also, together with them, give them an extended support subscription. No? And then also from Alexi, how hard is it to persuade Drupal 8.9 programmers to work with old style 7.x code? That's a good question. It's tricky to find indeed people that understand Drupal 7 code or maintenance, but that doesn't mean that they're not out there. There's people today with over 15 years or even 18 years of Drupal experience. There are people that are really getting energy from customer interactions, customer-facing interactions, that didn't want to go into creating, but sustaining. So finding the right people to do this job while also having these customer interactions, yeah, those are the right people that can help you set up this business model for Drupal 7 as well. Unless there's any other question, I'm happy to wish you a really, really good DrupalCon for the rest of the week. For those that are on the physical events or even the other Drupal Camp events, I wish you also the best and hope to see you this week, but also next year at Drupal Developer Days in Ghent, Belgium.